Glasses on or off because of glare? Or...
No, that's fine.
No.
This is Damien Ferry here from the Unshackled at the Starward Bastion event, and we're here with Michael. And tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Well, I'm 22 years old, from Western Sydney. We've come out with a group of other like-minded young men, and we're here to protect the church today.
Why did you choose to come out here and do this?
Because there's been a precedent of vandalism every year, as well as people harassing worshippers and attempting to disrupt any activities of the church, as well as to mock the institution and anyone who stands by those traditions.
You were telling me earlier that you're actually an atheist. Now, a lot of people might think that because of that you wouldn't have any sort of motive in doing so, but how do you sort of connect it or still ensure that it is important for you to take such a position as an atheist?
Well, there's a number of reasons. The quite selfish one, which is that it's a very beautiful piece of architecture. I mean, you look around Sydney and this tradition of building is no longer in fashion, and the idea that someone wants to vandalise something so beautiful, it hurts, you know, like... It seems to be that these people worship ugliness and like to tear down anything that's beautiful, and I think this church is very beautiful.
Yeah.
And while I don't agree with all views of the Catholic Church, I do think that they've always been a cornerstone of our society.
Yeah.
They're an important part culturally, and while they're in decline, I think that's a bad thing that it's in decline.
I'm guessing that you think with the church having such high moral standards on social issues in particular, that its decline would lead to more sort of degenerate activity and bad things to come?
Yes, I do believe so. There's a couple of other factors, but I do think that when you tear down an institution that is meant to be your moral foundation of society, that you look for other things that aren't necessarily, in my opinion, moral or good.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the actual Mardi Gras in itself?
Well, they've got the right to do it, but I find most open sexuality and... frankly, I'm disgusted by some of the things I see, you know, men that are half naked running around.
We saw a bit of that today.
And it's also the social attitude towards it has changed. They're trying to get children involved now, and I think that that's a very damaging thing to us as a society. I think that if you corrupt the youth in such a way... Like, they're not even trying to tell them just to be tolerant, they're trying to get them involved.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different kettle of fish.
So obviously they've got an agenda they're putting out that, we're seeing it in our school education system with safe schools and university Marxism being, and they're obviously trying to also dumb down the nation when it comes to gender fluidity and things that obviously are scientifically not true, and they're trying to create these... things based on emotion rather than facts.
Yeah, that's exactly true, and it is in a way to try and create a fake identity for them to follow, so that they've already deracinated our society and turned us to try to atomise us, you know. Not to get too anti-capitalist on the matter, but it is a commercial thing. I mean, you see many of the floats here today, they're business floats.
Well, true.
The advertisements leading up to it is a corporate entity that often funds these things.
And I mean, many would say that, of course, we have businesses that are free to do whatever they sort of choose to support. But in saying that, I mean, it is a little bit suspicious when a lot of the big corporate sort of heavyweights are backing certain views and trying to push society in a particular way. I mean, does that sort of tell you that there is a lot of things we don't know? There's a bit of influence there.
Well, these are the new elite. They are the... I don't want to use too much leftist rhetoric here, but they are the bourgeois,
the establishment. Yeah.
The homosexuality and its ancillary ideologies very much are the new bourgeois values. They don't represent many working class values. I mean, there are working class people who are quite tolerant of homosexuals and what they do, but often many don't like it, but they just won't say anything.
That's correct. I mean, it is funny enough in general. I mean, the working class that tends to be more pro-family, and a lot of people don't expect that because they think that the rich are more conservative, even though it tends to be quite the opposite way.
Yes, and it's quite interesting that celebrities and corporate heads endorse this kind of thing. It goes to show that this is the new value of the elite.
That's right.
so to speak. I wouldn't call them elite by the definition of elite, but I think your audience understands what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it's really destroying the family unit, and it's putting obviously future generations on the wrong track of things. What do you think was the first sort of event, or I guess the biggest impact in the past that like started all this in the first place?
I would have no idea. I think that it's just been a very slow decline. I mean, was it the straw that broke the camel's back? Or was it the ton of bricks he piled on him, I think it's just been a very slow build-up to this level of degeneracy, to use your terminology, but I wouldn't be able to pinpoint point thing. I mean, I'm only 22. I've not
a lot of people do point to, say, the 60s and where all the hippie sort of movement and sexual revolution had a lot of bit of an impact.
I would agree. But again, I mean, there was, take Weimar Germany for example, that very similar to today's situation, and it didn't end too well. Yeah,
that's right.
And again, that was the new bourgeois value for them.
I mean, it's pretty sad. I mean, what do you think about the whole same-sex marriage thing now becoming law? I mean, that's a bit of a really sort of a drastic change that now we have to adopt. And I mean, especially now that it seems unlikely, or at least there's a lot of suspicion when it comes to the freedom of speech and freedom of religion and whatnot, for people to be able to say their opinion without getting sued or insulted for it, because even though they hold a traditional norm. I mean, do you see in the future maybe that the people that hold traditional views are going to be like the degenerates of the past, where they had to live underground?
The outcasts.
The outcasts.
So I think it is very much becoming that. I mean, while we've had relatively positive reactions from the general public, there is quite a lot of hostility to any aspect of traditional values, or even just respectful values. Like, I'm not going to say that my worldview is the 100% correct one, but I'm going to stand by it, and I think that I'm significantly more respectful than most of the people out here today.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, what do you think politically needs to occur for us to be able to go back down the right track that we did in the past and stop with this furthering of these agendas?
I think we need to wage a cultural war, so to speak. It's what the left wing have done, is that they got into the institutions and then they managed to change the context of things. For instance, marriage the context of marriage was that it was a responsibility to yourself, to the church, to the state, and to your partner, to provide a safe and stable environment for children. And then they, during the sexual revolution, change the context to something that two people who love each other do.
That's right.
Love has always been involved in marriage, but you don't do a tradition purely for love.
Well, especially, I mean, a lot of people could argue that you could love someone without even being married to them, I mean, so that sort of,
it's
destroys...
the extra step that is involved that's significantly more than love. And I think that's...
Well,
I think in a way that by only having marriage, by only love being the only metric to which marriage is measured, I think that's... sorry, can you edit that? I'm not sure.
No, yeah, keep going, it's alright.
Correct.
I'll edit it anyway. That's alright.
I think that measuring whether a marriage is good only based on love, I think degrades marriage with love, because it suddenly isn't a responsibility. It suddenly isn't something greater than yourself. It becomes more selfish.
Well, it's more of a self-like gratification rather than basically having to provide for children and trying. That's right. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, is there any maybe people in the political world that you think might be at least somewhat representing your views, or do you think that they're all pretty bad at the moment?
None of the current politicians. Most of them are hypocrites. Barnaby Joyce and his family values. God bless him, he brought 5 beautiful children into the world, But I think that our generation needs to stand up and actually create new political leaders. We don't have someone who's going to come and save us, There's going to be no politician in the current pool of hypocrites that we have.
They're just there for their own, basically, their own interests, rather than trying to do what's right for the country.
Exactly, yes. And I think that real legitimate people will stand up at the time. The right leaders will be there when it's time to go, and we need to organise and create the environment in which those leaders will thrive.
No, true. I actually wrote an article a few days back regarding the Mardi Gras and saying that, or suggesting at least, that we should ban it. Do you agree with that?
I think in the ideal state, the Mardi Gras would be unnecessary, as in this open display of sexuality would not be encouraged and it would be frowned upon. So whether or not we should ban it, I mean, I think if we got into the ideal state, we wouldn't need to ban it because it just simply
wouldn't exist at all. Yeah.
And think about it, like they didn't need to ban it back when it first started because it wasn't a social thing. People these days, people who go to the Mardi Gras might not even necessarily be there for the homosexuality issue. I mean, they're just going because their friends are going, or because they just want to suss it out and see what it's like. And most people are just here to party and drink and do drugs.
No, that's very true what you mentioned there. I mean, it's unfortunate just that it's become a norm to attend events like this. And I mean, if one of us, for instance, were in the mood to, and we wouldn't be, but if we decided to walk around half naked on the street, I'm pretty sure we'd get arrested, wouldn't we?
Yes.
So there is a double standard.
And we would be ostracised within our own circles for that.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe we might laugh it off if it was a one-time thing. You know, I got way too drunk one time and went off and did something stupid. You know, we'd probably laugh at it. But if it became a common thing that was...
But we definitely wouldn't get encouraged and supported for it.
No encouragement. It'd be ostracisation if you made it a habit.
And of course, obviously, another thing is that even the police force that is trying to, well, they're supposed to serve and protect, they're actually getting involved in all of this as well. So what does it say about them?
Well, I think it shows that the authorities are also supportive of this, of the new elite values that are pushed and promoted by the upper members of our society, the people who truly control power. I mean, if you've got corporations and state corporations pushing for the same thing, you've got to start questioning it.
That's right. I mean, what do you think the average person like you and me can do to be able to get out there and push our views out there and try and create some change?
I think the best thing to do is not be afraid. Is to stand up and say loudly and clearly what you believe. And if you're young and my age, I think you should organise into your own groups. Find like-minded individuals. You don't need to do some form of activism with that group, but find them, become a new friends, become a society within a society, so to speak. It's how they ended up creating their social chain, so we'll have to do it for us.
That's correct. I mean, it's the only thing we can do, really. I mean, just try and get out there and don't be scared, push our views out there, trying to create a better society, because obviously not only for ourselves, but our children, our grandchildren, because, I mean, the argument that you hear a lot is, oh, now that they've got married, you're happy and everything. But, I mean, obviously, if we were to look back in time, everybody thought that they were happy just to have it decriminalised and for them to be accepted as, in society. And in saying that, then everything else came after that. In 40 years, there's been a lot of LGBT changes in the law.
They always claim,
Yeah.
They always claimed that the slippery slope was just a fallacy, but it's something that's been observable in multiple different examples. I mean, not just homosexuality, but in many other social changes. It's that these things do gather momentum.
And it's only going to get worse down the line as well.
Yes, all social movements, all cultural movements, if unopposed, will eventually gain momentum, and they will push through. I mean, the same people that say that slippery slope is a fallacy fight so hard to stop fascism and right-wing extremism. And if the slippery slope was a fallacy, they wouldn't try to oppose it. They wouldn't fight back against it. And I think it just goes to show that they don't believe what they preach.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for coming out and showing your support, and just standing by your views, and taking the time to be here tonight and defend the cathedral, because obviously there's been problems in the past. We have seen a bit of activity today where there's been people in obscene sort of clothing and hanging around the cathedral and trying to sort of start a little bit of trouble, but it takes strong individuals to come out and be able to defend their views and to not be scared about airing their opinions.
Yes.
So thanks for that, and thanks for talking to us.
It was a pleasure.